In 2011, Myasnikov organized an expedition to the capture of Agafya Lykova to help the Hermit. He needed to examine Agafya Lykova and diagnose a relatively large tumor under the right breast. The bump is located below the chest and its diameter is about 15 cm. On the pages of his social networks, Myasnikov shared information about this not an easy journey, which took almost 2 weeks. They traveled to the upper reaches of the Abakan by motorboats, overcoming rapids. A whole group of local hunters who knew the taiga well were invited to accompany the expedition. Muscovite Myasnikov was struck by the conditions in which the Hermit lived, and he expressed an uncertain assumption that the Hermit, most likely because of this, is a deeply unhappy person. He said that he felt very sorry for her for this reason. As for the disease, with an experienced eye, he immediately diagnosed Lykova with a neoplasm dangerous to health, which requires surgical intervention. The tumor must be removed, even if it is not cancerous. The expedition helped Agafya Lykova in what way? They left her meat and fish. Local hunters. Myasnikov's escorts were asked to visit the Hermit more often and help with the hard work, without which it is simply not possible to live in the taiga. It is especially difficult to prepare firewood for the winter, which lasts in those places for half a year. Upon returning to Moscow, Myasnikov contacted the then governor of the Kemerovo region, Tuliev, and asked him for a helicopter for his doctor, an experienced surgeon. The surgeon flew out to the Hermit and examined the tumor. He appointed an operation that could only be done in Moscow. I tried to convince Agafya Lykova of the need for an operation. The Hermit flatly refused to leave the hut. 3 years later, in 2014, Dr. Alexei Kukrov visited Agafya Lykova. He arrived with an expedition of Krasnoyarsk journalists. The Hermit recalled to him that the neoplasm appeared on her body a very long time ago, almost 30 years ago. Of course, it was necessary to contact the specialists about this, but she did not want to leave the confines of her family. So she lived, not knowing anything about the nature of the tumor. Dr. Alexei Kukrov said after this trip that Lykova weighs in the region of 45 kilograms, and her tumor is already 4. This is almost 10% of its own weight. And this is already dangerous. More than 2 decades have passed, and the tumor has not killed the woman. Based on this, the specialist believed that this education does not pose a very serious danger for the life of Agafya Lykova. My opinion is that this neoplasm is benign, but it is growing every year. Most likely, it is a lipoma, added Dr. Kukrov. Agafya Lykova was born on April 17, 1944 in the family of old believers of Chapel Consent, the Lykovs, who were forced to flee to deep forests due to religious persecution, where they lived their entire lives. Agafya's mother, Agafya Lykova, died in 1961, when Lykova was 17 years old. In 1978, geologists exploring the Siberian expanses during an expedition stumbled upon the capture of the Lykov family, which at the time consisted of 5 people. In 1981, within 3 months, 2 brothers and sister of Agafya Lykova died. In 1988 her father also died. So she was left completely alone among the endless forest spaces. The woman asked to find her an au pair, as she is experiencing health problems. Those who wanted to help periodically appeared, but people didn't stay there. It is quite difficult there, far from civilization. For a long time he lived on the settlement Agafya, who was once part of a geological expedition, discovered the Lykov family in the taiga. There was no particular help from him, since he was one-legged and in old age. He lived in a nearby hut. Relations between Agafya Lykova and Agafya were not very good. There are reasons for this, which I will tell about in the following films. In 2015, Agafya died. And for the winter of 2020, Nikolai Sidov, the son of Agafya, came to help the Hermit. Nikolai Sidov already lived on the estate of Agafya Lykova and helped her earlier. In addition, in the fall, construction began on a new hermitage, which I talked about in previous videos. Agafya Lykova treats Nikolai Sadov well. She is glad of this helper. Please share this video on your social networks, using the buttons under the video, and subscribe to the channel. I ask you to go and watch other videos about Agafya Lykova, which you can see now on the screen in the end screensavers. There are a lot of rare and interesting facts about the Hermit. Thank you all for watching.